Welcome to another episode of Empower Her Voices. I'm your host, Faiza, and today's discussion is about the future of education, how we are moving from chalkboards to AI driven learning, and most importantly, how women can lead this transformation. And our guest today for this episode is Mark Anthony Wile, Managing Director of Facts International. With over 2 decades in education leadership, technology integration, and institutional development, he has played a significant role in modernizing schools across the globe. His expertise lies in helping schools adopt cutting edge management solutions that actually enhance student learning, teacher effectiveness, and most importantly, the operational and administrative efficiency. But before stepping into the world of educational technology, which we call it as EdTech, Mark served as a school principal as well, giving him first-hand insight into the challenges educators face. So his deep passion for strategic planning, leadership development, and school innovation has actually allowed him to bridge the gap between traditional education models and future-ready learning environments. Mark, welcome to Empower Our Voices. We are excited to have you here and eager to learn from your journey and insights.
Good morning, and thank you, Faiza. That's sweet and appreciative of your comments and your introduction. And I'm excited to be here.
Likewise, and thank you so much for taking time out. We are actually equally excited to know more about this technology integration and the impact because this is something that every educator is talking about nowadays. So, Mark, you have had a remarkable career, like from leading schools as a principal to now shaping global education through Facts International. So, what was the turning point that actually made you shift from that traditional educational leadership to pioneering tech driven school transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've asked myself that question many times because sometimes it is not always something that you can just put your finger on and say, it happened because. I do remember when I started out my career in education, and I was thrust very quickly into my first principalship role. And I always had an intrigue with technology, and I'm dating myself here when I say these things, but computers were really just kind of emerging into business practice at that time. And we brought our first computer into the office for administrative purposes, and we were using it to generate correspondence and merging data with letters and sending them home. And, we felt quite brilliant about that. But the rest of the educational experience in terms of documentation and communication was largely done in a paper fashion, a very traditional paper fashion. But I've always had an intrigue, I feel, with technology and its importance that it can play. And while I look back on my years of leadership in schools really fondly, I do actually miss that element of my professional life. I really always wanted to do something that would have a larger global impact. And so I was given an opportunity to join the company that I'm a part of now. And we were groundbreaking at that time because we were introducing technology that really was, to our awareness, one of the first cloud-based management solutions that was in the marketplace. Now it's, with very mainstream, to have technologies that are in the cloud. But at that time, it was groundbreaking. And we saw the transformative impact that had. And I think it was particularly interesting to me because I started using this technology that I now propagate and promote globally. I used it in my last school director role. And I was managing a really amazing boarding institution. And we had parents students from all around the globe. And these parents were frustrated because it was taking them weeks to get communication through like snail mail.
Mm.
And so we were looking for a product that would allow us to be able to communicate with our parents more effectively, no matter where they
Mm.
were, Korea, Africa. And so that's how I discovered the platform, the company. And we seized a hold of that, and it was completely transformative for us. These parents, you could not believe how grateful they were to be able to
Mm.
receive instantaneously input from our institution to help them do what they're supposed to be doing in
Mm.
the first place and what they want to do, which is to be a stakeholder. They want
Yeah.
to be a part of that journey
True.
and influence their children each day in a way that will help those children self-actualize.
Yeah, true. I totally agree with you. Mark, when we talk about schools, as you have been into the leadership position, treating parent or taking parent as a stakeholder is, I guess, really crucial because only then they'll have the confidence that, fine, if my child is going to this school is actually acting like a community in which there's this triangle of school management, student, and parent, and this is really really important to make them feel comfortable, and then they'll be at ease, then they'll be more comfortable, and then they'll become your ambassadors. And it's really so you've mentioned that this the company where you are right now, Fax International, they introduce first cloud-based management solutions, right? And if I'm not wrong, it's the enterprise resource planning, the student management information system. So it was launched like back in which year at that time?
Well, we really started promoting the solution around 2000, the year 2000. So, I mean, that's
Okay.
sounding like a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And when
25
I
years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And
So,
so you can kind of see how that timing of introducing a cloud-based solution would have
yeah,
been pretty transformative and innovative at that time.
true.
And I, so I was one of the quote unquote beta users as a school director. And then when I joined the
Mm.
organization, I think we had about 40 schools at that time. Uh, and so we were virtually a startup. There were only five of us that were really working within that enterprise environment.
Oh,
And of
wow.
course, time has really transformed our business, and we're
Yeah.
impacting now about almost 13,000 schools. We're in about 65 countries.
Wow.
And there's just so much opportunity for improvement,
Mm.
modernization, innovation within schools. And it's something that we're highly passionate about. And it's
Mm.
not really, at the end of the day, it's not about the technology from an efficiency standpoint.
Yeah.
That is an absolute asset that comes with using technologies, or it should come with technologies, but it's really about enabling a level of connective tissue between stakeholders that transforms the way in which people interact and the information that they have that they're basing their decisions upon. And of course, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, it changes the
Mm.
dynamic within which children are learning today, which I
Yeah.
think is absolutely critical,
True.
that children have more ownership and responsibility for their learning.
Yes, they do have. They do have. So, Mark, from AI-driven learning to real-time engagement tools, technology is reshaping education faster than ever. So, what's one breakthrough in education tech that excites you the most, and how is it opening new doors for female students, particularly, and educators?
Yeah, this is a really big question, and we maybe can take this in pieces. But first of all, I
Sure.
think we're all becoming keenly aware of the presence of AI, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't. I think globally we wouldn't say that this strategy, this technology, the inclusion of
Mm.
AI in our everyday life is there yet. But certainly,
Yeah.
people are there's a range of people that are embracing this, from the spectrum of dabbling in it
Yeah.
to actually having it fully integrated into systems that
Mm.
are depending upon that huge global bank of information that now has been amassed, and are trying to leverage that in powerful ways. So, when you think about that within the context of education, it really underscores the fact that, when I started out in education and I stepped into the classroom for the first time, the knowledge that we were disseminating was knowledge that either we had accumulated within our own mind and within the textbook spectrums that we would put in front of our students. And, those were critical decisions, because you're saying, this is the body of knowledge that I want to expose you to. Well, we know that that has changed dramatically in our world today, and that there is just virtually unlimited amounts of information that are being amassed, even on a daily basis. So it begs the question, not necessarily what do we need to learn, so much as how can we take advantage of what has already been learned, and leverage that knowledge, extract what we need in order to be able to effectively solve what we're solving. And that fundamentally changes sort of the question of why we learn, why we use the activities that we do each day to learn and solve problems. So I think that constructively within like the K-12 environment that I'm working in every day, we need to be comfortable with the fact that students have to be quote unquote unshackled and enabled to approach knowledge and embrace knowledge, to dig into knowledge. And when you're talking about AI particularly, it's sort of a double-edged sword for me from a sort of educationist perspective. And I say that because, a really good example, we recently went through a hiring process. So we were looking at candidates. And while, you can't say 100% emphatically, I had a really strong sense that some of the content that I was looking at from some of the candidates was generated by AI, not generated by them. And the reason why I say that is that when you have a conversation like you and I are having, Faiza, you get a sense of what a person's level of intellectual acumen is. You get a sense of what their oral communication skills are. And if there is a significant difference between what I experience with you and what I see that you said that you produced, that's a conflict. And with our children, and I think that you would agree with me on this. I think hopefully all the listeners that are listening to this would agree with me on this, that fundamentally one of the most critical skills that I've relied upon in my life, in my work, in my parenting, in my family, is A, the ability to think, and B, the ability to communicate. And these skills cannot be understated. The value that they bring in everyday transactions that we have, whether we're making appointments or we're solving a problem, or we're talking to our neighbor, or we're involved in a corporate meeting, we rely upon these skills, and the degree with which they are refined and developed have a direct relationship to our ability to self-actualize. So when we start supplanting the need for those skills by saying, well, I'll just tell AI that this is what I want to communicate, and it'll construct something, and I'll just send it, and away we go. That isn't really necessarily an authentic representation of what thoughts you have in your mind or how you want to represent those thoughts. And I don't want our children, through the process of education, coming to believe that they no longer have to stop and think, that they no longer have to stop and really put together a cohesive, coherent, and valuable sentence
Hmm.
Words are words, and depending upon how
Yeah.
we put those together can have a huge impact on what
True.
happens.
True.
So I love the idea of AI and I love the value that it brings, but I think we still have to be
Hmm.
directing what happens that comes from here. And
Hmm.
so I'm all for leveraging that. I use it. I mean, we put together documents and we say, hey, what can you do to improve this, or give me a
Hmm.
framework that I can start from so that I'm not
Hmm.
starting from scratch. That's about efficiency,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's not always fully effective. Um,
True.
yeah. And when it comes to teachers, every day in the classroom, talking about moving from the chalkboard, I love, and I've seen great instruments now from a learning management perspective where teachers are able to
Hmm.
really go out and they can generate AI driven sort of lesson plans, for example,
Yeah.
that would by hand, it would take them hours. And this is sort of the,
Yes.
the impossibility that we
Hmm.
ask of our educators in terms of really creating meaningful content. And in the absence of AI, it is a burdensome task. Teachers that really care
Hmm.
about their profession, which I would assume that all teachers care about their profession, but those that are really
Hmm.
driven to provide meaningful, life impacting content, the amount of time that it takes to develop that kind of content is really um, challenging. And there's really
Hmm.
not enough hours in the day. And I give such high praise for educators and the amount of labor and effort that they put into their profession, and sometimes the lack of appreciation and compensation that they receive for the work that they do.
True, true. Couldn't agree more, Mark. This is something which you have said is actually you have actually related it with the cause which most of the parents have also shared with us when we used to go to different schools. Because what they are saying that now with this AI bit and this like extra resources around us, students have they are not tend towards thinking. What they'll do is that, oh, this is a question, I'm just going to type and I'll get the answer. So as you have said that the ability to think and ability to communicate is the most important skills. And at the end of the day, when the teacher is going to sit right in front of the school head or the principal, and if she has done everything from AI, let's suppose we are taking example of a lesson from science. So the principal sitting over there on the other side of the table will exactly get the point that, okay, this is not your work. So yes, I agree with you that the educators or even the students, yes, they should use it, but then they should use it in a way that the thought should be there. Just write it down or type on like your live document or something, and then do ask for refinement or do ask for enrichment. But then the thought should be yours, not should be of AI. That's really
Yeah.
important because there is a clash between critical thinking and how you are going to use AI. True.
And it's really hard and I agree with you, Faiza, it's really hard on that side of the learning engagement where we're talking about this from the student's perspective and we're looking at this through their lens. They don't always have the longitudinal view that we
Yeah.
have because in life we've accumulated experience. We've had a lot
True.
of experiences that have
Yes.
instructed us about the necessities. And so
Hmm.
they're looking down that tunnel from the other direction, and they're
Hmm.
just trying to get it done. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not diminishing
Hmm.
the fact that students like to learn. We want them to love to learn, but
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's just an assignment and I need to get it done. But at the end
True.
of that particular day for our young people, we need to emphasize what you just said, which is it's so critical that they are able to generate uh, 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 to demonstrate their skills
Hmm.
of being able to think. And I think we have slidden away from the refinement of oral
Hmm.
interpretation because
Hmm.
our generation of young people depend heavily upon telegraphing their thoughts
Hmm.
electronically. And
True.
so I hope that schools will spend more time orally examining students and giving them an
Hmm.
opportunity to communicate what they know verbally.
True.
What
True.
do you think about this, student X? How do you feel this is going to affect our world, student Y? And
Hmm.
they have to generate those thoughts from here,
Yeah.
and that will serve them well later on. They may not see the purposes of it today, but it'll definitely impact them later on. And
True. True.
yeah,
So,
so I,
Mark,
but I'm all, go
as
ahead.
yeah. No, please carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm all though for students leveraging the technology that they have available to
Yeah.
them today, seizing a hold of the power of that knowledge that's out there and assembling it and working through it to find the things that they need to learn and to do in order to solve the problems that they've been asked to solve
Yeah.
in their learning
True.
experience. Yes.
True, but yes, and as we have already said that by staying grounded to the fact that their own thinking process should not be affected, should not be dependent. That thinking process should be independent of no matter what is there for them. And then further, obviously, with coaching and mentoring, they can get a lot of, that they can get a lot of leverage out of the technology. So as we are like talking about the, educators and in education sector, there is like, if I talk about my country, Pakistan, so there is a dominance of female professionals here in education sector. Sorry for this. Okay. So if so when we talk about women, if we were earlier talking about the leadership position that the school head was sitting over there. So the women or the young girls who are actually interested to have their career as a leader in the education sector, may it be in academics or management. So women like make up a large percentage of educators worldwide. So yet leadership roles remain male dominated in a few parts of the globe. If I talk about my country, that yes. So what's like the hardest barrier holding women back from top positions, and what's one bold move institutions should take to change this? You can like answer this by keeping in view like your narrative or perception if you have encountered this around you, or if you are going to view it from a global perspective. It's totally up to you how you're going to answer this.
This is a question that I love, and I have a lot of bits and pieces that I'd like to weave into my answer, and
Sure.
some of it's accumulated experience.
Okay.
Certainly, I believe heavily in the value of female leadership, and sometimes we don't always talk about this way, just because things that we talk about now in terms of social etiquette. We're not supposed to single out a gender and talk about them in a context of why we value them here or there. We want to view everyone as professionals, but the fact
Yeah.
remains that, Faiza, you're a female, I'm a male, and we understand what that means in terms of our daily life and the way that we view
True.
the differences. And some of this, of course, and I've traveled in more than 50 countries, I see uh,
Hmm.
the cultural impact of the way in which there are differences uh, in terms of the way that we treat and regard and empower.
True.
And
True.
so I think, let me just say a bunch of things really quick. Number one,
Sure.
you embody the answer to this question. You and I have
Okay.
had some conversations leading up to today. And when I
Yes.
think about what it is that you're aspiring to do and that you are doing in terms of, your reach in transformative actions that you're taking to elevate the learning of communities across Pakistan, particularly focused on finding ways in which to further the education and the vision of young women so that they can take up stronger, more
Hmm.
self-directed rewarding uses of their talents. I just think that is a amazing ambition that you have. It's a huge ambition, but it's worthy. It's worthy of the time and effort. And so you embody the answer to the question. And I will say it this way: I lead a team that manages our global business. I am the only male person on the team.
Oh,
I have an
okay.
entirely female team
That's
surrounding
great.
me, and those individuals were placed in their role based upon competency and potential.
Okay. Right.
They and they are doers. They're doers.
Mm.
And so when you talk about educational leadership, when you talk about the instructional force that we have globally in K-12 education, for example, it is it is heavily weighted on the classroom side with females. But as you say,
Mm.
there's so much opportunity for growth in the leadership side in bringing more females into that arena. But we need to
Mm.
do that. We need to do that because a female professionals, from my experience, are doers. They are action focused, and they have to be that way because you know the respect that they deserve for the amount of multitasking that they often do in their lives, because they're women are caregivers by general nature. So they're taking care of a lot of things in their life, whether it be a family, a spouse,
Mm.
parents,
True.
and siblings,
True.
on top of the fact that they're trying to further their own career in their work. And so
Mm.
there's a lot of things going on in their world. And so as a result, they're very action oriented.
True.
And that makes them highly effective in leadership roles, because that's one of the things that we see as an impediment to effective institutions is either lack of action or like being frozen and just not knowing what action to
Mm.
take. So making efficient decisions, taking actions, getting things done is critical to all businesses, all institutions, and it
Mm.
certainly is true of education as well. And so there's that, and there is also a level of intuition that
Mm.
that is embodied within the female psychology, that gives them an added bonus that I will never have, where they are able to see, I call it like four-dimensional views of
Okay.
their world, their environment. So things that I might miss and not be alert to, they're seeing and understanding way earlier. And so when you're
Mm.
dealing with a community of a school, think about the
Mm.
stakeholders that you have in such a community. You
Mm.
have your administrative core, you have your instructional team, you have your
True.
students, you have your parent constituents, you have your regional
Mm.
businesses, you have your
Yeah.
board of directors, you have a lot of stakeholders, a lot of stakeholder groups. And so it takes someone that has a level of understanding and intuition to facilitate expectations
Mm.
across that diverse group of stakeholders. And this is something that female leaders can do very effectively, because they have that level of nurture, that level of understanding, that four-dimensional perspective of what's going on around them. And they are able to juggle the competing interests of those kinds of communities. I think often
Mm.
much better than I was able to do. And so we need to step back and get some perspective. I know that in one of my school director roles, I had a male a leader that was on my team, and I would consider like one of the top three levels of leadership in my school. And
Mm.
after that individual left, and after I left, there was a female instructor that was on our team, and she got promoted into that person's role. And
Okay.
I was in awe at how effective her leadership acumen was. And here she was sitting right under my nose all those years.
Hmm.
And I respected her and I loved the work that she was doing. But the thought never occurred to me to bring her into the leadership tier
Hmm.
of our institution. And it was my miss. It was a huge loss
Hmm.
because she was a highly effective and impactful leader,
Wow.
and really amazed me as I watched her from a distance after I had left the institution. So I think we just need perspective. We need to step back,
Hmm.
but there needs to be a stronger nudge here. And I don't, if for any Pakistani listeners that listen to this podcast, I want to say what I'm going to say respectfully, because I don't consider myself an authority on your country culture, although I've been there many times now and I've been in many different settings and I've talked to a lot of people. I believe that there is a reluctance by many young people, particularly females, to step forward and to use their voice
Hmm.
and to be noted.
Okay.
Ironically, yesterday, I was having a conversation with a young woman who is in university, fourth year, and
Right.
she was telling me that she had just completed a huge, like, final year project and made a presentation. There's more steps to this, of course,
Hmm.
but I was just um, working with her and coaching her because
Hmm.
I'm assisting her with her career steps, particularly in and around the work that we're doing here in our business. And I'm trying to encourage and embolden the kind of stand up and be acknowledged, stand up and
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
counted. Know that you have the ability to do things that you're not alert to, and
Hmm.
you can be highly impactful just by believing in yourself. So this is not only what you're doing, Faiza, with your initiative, your empowerment initiative, and what's going on in terms of working to elevate the skills and the professional uh, trajectory that we need our young women to be on. This is not only helpful, but this is critical. This is critical. There is a lot of need for smart leadership, smart problem solving. Our world is becoming complicated and
Yeah.
almost impossible to manage, and so it's going to take a really brilliant effort. And I believe that our females need to be at the center and at the front of that effort.
True.
And we need to make sure that they are given every opportunity to self actualize into those roles.
True. Thank you so much, Mark. It's really encouraging, and I'm sure for the female viewers out there and the young girls, as Mark has said, that you need to step out, you need to be vocal, and you need to actually feel that term that he has just used, self-actualization. So at the end of the day, it's in your hands. You have to step out. You have to speak for yourself, and the skills that you have at times, as Mark has shared, that at times you're not even aware of, like what your skills are or how impactful your contribution can be. But trust me, even if it's 1%, one step at a time, it is going to make impact. So, Mark, taking it further, with AI and digital learning transforming classrooms, what skills will define the most successful, if we are just going to put a label around it, let's suppose successful female leaders in education over the next decade. So, by keeping in view this entire transformation, how what do you suggest the female leaders to go for if we'll just talk about next 10 years?
Sure. Well, this is something that I've talked about on different occasions. And and I'm going to come back to it just because I believe that it's the answer, my preferred answer to your question.
Yeah.
If you think about, for any females that are listening, any parents, but we're talking about empowerment of women. If you think about what the conversation sounds like at home, particularly if you have children, and you're talking to your children and you're suggesting to them that they need to learn, and why, mommy, do I have to learn this? It doesn't seem to be important. And it's about the learning, and it's about the discovery, and it's about the fact that you are a placeholder in this society, whether you're talking about the street that we live on, the community that we live in, the province that we live in, the country we live in. You are a piece of the fabric of that. There is a placeholder that you hold. What are you going to be? What are you going to do that's going to be impactful on others? So when we think about that conversation that we've all had with our children as parents, schools have to begin to think about this the same way. In other words, if I'm standing at the threshold of my school front entrance and I'm watching students stream by me, which is something that I love to do, and I've done this in your country, when I've gone out and I've visited schools, I like to just stand there and watch the children walk by and look in their faces, see their smiles and their big eyes and their curiosity, and so we have to start thinking about these young minds as critical assets to the success of our society and our planet. And as a result of that, and I love this example, I was attending a conference once and I was listening to some of the top Asian school directors talk about their innovative schools. And there was one particular school that was in China, and they were really trying to upend traditional school operations and norms. And so their children, this is a pre-tertiary institution, their children did not attend formal classes every day. They did attend them, but they did not attend them every day because a lot of their time was spent in a learning structure where when they entered the school, they were asked to identify what their top talent was that they believed that they had. And so one full day of every learning week, they invested one full day in developing that talent, whatever that talent might be. It could have been, they had propensities toward building things or creating things, or they were a musician, or they were an artist, or whatever those skill sets that were identified by them and their family early on. They spent a whole day developing those talent sets. And then they also scheduled appointments with their teachers to go and have consultations with them about what they were learning in their general studies as well. So I say all that because there was one particular student who, by the time they graduated from high school, they had already in their personal skill set developed a medical instrument that they patented and that was being used in real life surgical situations to help save lives. Now, that doesn't happen every day. And I would venture to say that that isn't going to ever happen any day where we don't take children who are gifted. All children are gifted in some way, shape, or form. Find out what that is and really pour fuel on that. So I think that this is something, and so bringing that back to your question in terms of, when you look across the landscape of education, you see the level of female and women in their presence, and looking at getting more female leaders in the role of school leadership.
Mhm.
These are the kinds of things that
They
um,
need to do.
a woman in a
Hmm.
leadership position, and I come back to that four-dimensional statement that I made earlier,
Yeah.
they have intuition and the ability to go and extract something from a young mind and say, you know what? I see something in you. And I don't know if you
Hmm.
see it, but I see it. And this is something that I want you to think more about and realize that you've been given some special talents or special gifts in this area of your life, and we need to do something more with that. Now, I happen to think that Faiza, you're probably better at doing that than I am, just because of your psychology and that fourth dimension of knowledge and insight and ability that you have. And so, do women have the opportunity to play a more direct role and an impactful role in education and in leadership? Absolutely. Are they doing that enough? No, they are not. And we need to make room for them to
Yeah.
come into these kinds of
Hmm.
environments and to see things
Hmm.
that we're not seeing, and to really
Hmm.
build a much more transformative institution than maybe we see in some of these institutions today. You might disagree
True.
with me. I don't know what our listeners' reaction is, but
I
this is my
I
own
totally
my own
agree
personal
with you.
conviction.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because you know what you have just said at the end, that if that leader, if that it's so let's suppose we're talking about a coordinator who's working in a school and she wished to become the school head and later director. So what is the professional trajectory that she needs to keep in mind is the more she'll be connected with the learners, the more she's going to bring out the best out of them. As you said, that she should just go and ask, okay, fine, I see something special. So it's
Mhm.
100% relatable to what is happening right now in the schools. It's just that opportunities are like roaming around the teachers or the coordinators. They just need to tap, unfold, and then just get the maximum out of it. And it's a very beautiful way of doing it because the more it's in human psychology as well. The more connected you are on personal level with someone, the person will be more comfortable with you, and he or she will have more faith. And whatever you're going to tell them, they'll listen to you because over here they have just understood, oh, it's my safe zone. So the brain will give them this connection, oh, it's your safe zone, safe person. So yes, the doors will be open and then they'll learn more. And ultimately, this is going to have a positive impact on the performance of that leader, teacher, or whatsoever. So this is like a very I guess you have endorsed something really great when it comes to working more on the skill based education of a child. Because at the end of the day, a good educator is the one who's inspiring the learners to learn more or to have self belief. So I'm sure that this is something very useful for the young girls or even who have just stepped into education, and for the leaders who wish to proceed more. So if you're going to follow this thing, I'm sure you must have followed somewhere. That's why you're there in the leadership position. But then it's a process of continuous evolution. So, Mark, just to wrap it up, it was very insightful from your end, I must say, because it's very well said that if a person has a grassroots level, if you have worked from the ground level, you can always relate to anything when it comes to education. And being an educator, you're not just a technologist now, not just an edtech expert. You have worked, you have led the school, you know what are the ground realities over there while you're heading the school. So if you could give just one powerful piece of advice, though you have already given a couple of advices, to the women out there who want to lead the future of education, what would it be?
Well, there's an important scripture that says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Meekness is a great quality, but I want to say to our listeners, those educators that are maybe just early in their educational
Hmm.
profession, those that are even in educational leadership roles. But I'm thinking about those that are, and this actually cuts across all careers too. This isn't just
Right.
education.
Yeah.
That
Right.
meekness has value, but meekness is an impediment sometimes. And why I say that is that
Hmm.
in order to grow, we have to volunteer.
Oh, yes.
And all of us that are in positions need to get comfortable with not just reclining back and staying in our safe zone, but we need to use our voice and say, what else can I do to help? I would like to
Yes.
take on more responsibility, and I'm willing to do anything that you need in order to help our
Hmm.
school become an even
Hmm.
more amazing place. Those few phrases, if I'm listening to someone who comes to my door, because in schools, for example, we feel a lot of
Hmm.
complaining. This isn't working,
Mhm.
Mark. We need to
Yeah.
fix this, Mark. I have a
Hmm.
problem, Mark. So when someone comes through my door and says, Mark, I just wanted to let you know that I love working here and I would like to take on more responsibility. If there's
Hmm.
something else that I could do that would be helpful to you and to our school to grow it more, I would like to have an opportunity to do that. And
Hmm.
will that catalyst will change that person's trajectory, guarantee it. Because the
Yeah.
more they're willing to take on and contribute, the more opportunity for leadership that will be given to them. And so one day they're going to wake up in the morning and they're going to walk into that institution, and instead of going into the classroom, they're going to be going into an academic dean office. They're going to be going into a principal office.
Hmm.
They're going to have the
True.
leadership role.
True. True. It's and response leadership comes with responsibility, a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
Because being a teacher, you're responsible for 15 or 20 or 18 kids for just one classroom. But if we're just not going to see the perks of the leadership, because we have to look at the other side of the story, that then you will be responsible for all those 15, 10, 20 classrooms, the teachers, support staff, and parents, and then most importantly, the learning path of every single student. So it's a very phenomenal advice, because if you're not willing for taking extra responsibility or extra, I would not use the word of burden, because that has some negative connotation. It's rather, you have narrated it very beautifully, that it's about how willing you are to learn more or to take on extra. So it is, yes, it's really important. So yes, leadership is not a piece of cake. So it requires a lot of nerve. It's about patience. It's about persistence, and most importantly, it's about inspiration as well. So Mark, this has been truly insightful conversation, and to be honest, your thoughts on education, innovation, leadership, and most importantly, the way you have narrated how women can be more empowered, what they're supposed to do, has given us so much to think about. So thank you so much for your time.
It's truly my pleasure. I'm so excited about what you're doing. I think that we're going to be hearing a lot more from your corridor as you continue down the path that you are with your mission and your goals. And you're going to be transforming lives in ways that you probably won't even be aware of. And I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm so thankful to be able to get to know you and to contribute some thoughts to the overall conversation. It's been a privilege for me. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise. And to our listeners, if you found today's discussion valuable, just don't forget to share this episode, and let's keep empowering each other to build the future of education. Until next time, stay inspired and stay empowered. Thank you.